Conspiracies have been around since the dawn of time. However, in the 1960s, they became more widespread and commonplace in American culture thanks to the television and radio. Marilyn Monroe's death is a particularly well-known conspiracy. Her supposed overdose is surrounded with conspiracies, mainly that the government disposed of Marilyn because of her possibly intimate relationship with both Kennedy brothers, tarnishing their social standing.
The case of the Kennedy brothers comes the conspiracy of John F. Kennedy's assassination being an inside job by the Secret Service. Lee Harvey Oswald, Kennedy's assassin, fired a total of 3 shots in the time span of 6 seconds. 2 of the 3 shots landed, one of which going right through Kennedy's upper back, penetrated his neck, damaging the spinal vertebra, and exiting his throat. This is now known as the magic bullet theory. This only thickens the already colossal enigma that is the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
In 1969, 2 American men landed on the moon. Or did they? By the mid-1970s, conspiracy theories, seemingly supported by the lack of stars in the landing footage, began to circulate, concluding that the moon landing was a hoax to supposedly give the U.S. a heads-up to the USSR in the Cold War. Brought about from discrepancies between governments, the evolving in conspiracies from a national to a global level in the 70s earned its conspiracies the alias of the Age of Government Sparks. It is quite foreseeable as to why the United States would want to stage the moon landing. Apollo 11 was initiated during the Cold War. The space race was on. To prove to be better than the Russians, the U.S. could have faked the moon landing just for a moral victory. That says the United States made it to the moon before Russia.
The 1980s was an iconic age for AIDS. Seeming to spawn, AIDS came to litter communities rapidly. Surrounding this disease was the theory that AIDS itself was engineered in a lab to help keep the populations down, targeting the nation's undesirables, especially homosexuals and African Americans. This conspiracy is one boosting the idea that the government wants to further improve its status through the extermination of undesirables, showing how the conspiracies are escalating. While AIDS is said to originate in Africa, the first cases actually appeared in Manhattan. The AIDS epidemic in Africa was not identified until years later. This is quite an anomalous occurrence, seeming that it is widely believed that AIDS came from Africa.
The 90s were a time of shock. Cell phones and paparazzis escalated popularity and influence, allowing information to become a bit easier to access. The People's Princess Diana mysteriously died in a car crash with her supposed Egyptian lover, whose baby she was said to be carrying. Was this an embarrassment to the royal family? Did they order the death of her lover to prevent a Middle Easterner from being closely tied to the crown? Although investigators have drawn the conclusion that the drunk driver of the car is responsible for the crash, is that really true? After its commenced circulation closely following Princess Diana's death, this conspiracy was adopted by many, especially her lover's father.
Tupac died in the 90s, or did he? This iconic rapper's music video, as released after his death, showcased him wearing shoes not yet released by Nike. And it seemed a substantial amount of music videos and songs were released following Tupac's death. Tupac simply moved away to an island. He didn't actually die. This famous conspiracy theory began to circulate after his supposed passing away in the late 1990s.
On September 11, 2001, President George W. Bush Jr. orchestrated the attacks on New York's Twin Towers in order to have an excuse to invade the Middle East for oil. The events of 9/11 are littered by conspiracy theories that led Americans to the conclusions that maybe the government is out to get us. Thanks to the quick advancements in technology, including the internet and computers, these theories gain rapid popularity.
In 2008, yet another shocking event came to be: the electing of the first Black American president. However, that's only what the Democrats want you to believe. President Obama is from Kenya. His Hawaiian birth certificate, obviously a fake. The government is quite blatantly trying to promote its own agenda.
When I
Prince spoke out against chemtrails. Where is he now? As of April 21st, 2016, dead. It seems obvious that someone didn't like him talking out. This conspiracy is one of the most recent ones, proving that even now conspiracies are commonplace. The extreme scale to which conspiracies spread is now due primarily to accumulation of social media, the internet, and popularization on television and radio.
The 1960s were a time in which television and radio were making the existence of conspiracies take off. The theories of this time were based in a national reign. The 1970s spread to the conspiracy of the moon landings being a hoax out to the U.S. ahead of the USSR and otherwise promote the nation's morale.
The 80s segued into a time of conspiracies based upon national cleansing and selective or religious survival to better enhance the United States' international reputation. The 1990s saw more conspiracies surrounding the deaths of renowned individuals on a global scale. The 2000s were simply un-American in that they consisted primarily of conspiracies surrounding the government's involvements in the forgery of a president's birth certificate and 9/11, all being national conspiracies. And finally, the 2010s built upon the idea that there's something the government doesn't want us to know, and that those who expose the government secrets will be persecuted, making them shrink again into a national commonplace, aided by the advancement of technology.